Over the past decade, Robert Downey Jr. has made himself one of the most recognizable names in Hollywood, but you would never guess that he battled an addiction that started when he was just 8 years old, eventually leading him to spending almost a decade in and out of jail. Ultimately, he turned his life completely around, and today we're going to explore his upbringing, jump into the lessons he learned, and how they can help you deal with your addictions. Let's jump right in. Robert Downey Jr. didn't get the best start. His parents both worked in the film industry, which makes it seem like destiny that he would end up there too, but his childhood wasn't exactly perfect. His parents were drug users, always using them around him and even introducing him to marijuana at the age of 6. Because of this, Downey says his drug addiction started at just 8 years old. Appearing in his father's movies and picking up other roles where he could, he eventually dropped out of high school to dedicate himself to acting full-time. Now, it's not what you would expect from Marvel's leading man and now Oscar winner, a high school dropout with serious drug problems. His childhood, surrounded by drug users, set him up for his future struggles. And like most addicts, he was very resistant to accept help once new people started trying to put him on the right path. And this is why the first lesson is to surround yourself with the right people and let them help you. In his early days of drug abuse, his manager at the time, Lori Rodkin, put him into rehab when he so clearly needed it. People around him were concerned not just for his career, but also for his health. Downey was so furious at her decision to send him to rehab that he fired her as soon as he got out, instead of thinking about the reasons that his whole support network wanted him to go there in the first place. Later, while he was in prison, industry friend Jodie Foster, known for huge roles including Clarice in Silence of the Lambs, wrote Downey a letter encouraging him to look at his latest roles as Charlie Chaplin and compare it to his life. Chaplin was a huge success that even earned Downey an Oscar nomination. But his adoring fans didn't know that throughout all this success, he was still battling his addiction and a tendency to self-destruct. He later went on to reveal that he was high throughout a lot of the filming of Chaplin. He was dwelling in self-pity at the time, and Jodie reminded him that, like Chaplin, he had already gone through so much stress under the public eye, but he had powered through it all and was able to survive whatever came next. Having people who encourage you to be your best self, even when it might involve hearing advice or criticism you don't want to hear, is vital for reaching your potential. If you listen to the guidance of people who respect you and have your best interests at heart, they'll help you take steps to improve your life. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a solid support network. And that feeds into the next lesson we can take from Downey. Even if people have failed you, or you have been through some unfair rough patches, you should not harbor resentment. There's a famous phrase that says, all the things you're holding on to are the same things that are holding you back. In Downey's position, it would have been easy to grow to hate his parents for setting him up to struggle with addiction and failing him in a way that deeply impacted his life. This, however, is not helpful. If you let all the bad things eat you up, every moment of mistreatment hangs on to your back, and your journey into a successful future will be much harder. In recent years, in the wake of all of his rock-bottom moments, Downey has refused to be held back by his past. He's walked out of interviews where journalists try to prod him into giving juicy, private thoughts about his life and family. He's spoken fondly about the opportunities he received despite the hardship, and even went on to make a documentary about his dad that he claimed was part of his desire to really understand his father. If anything we've discussed in the video so far has resonated with you, and you feel that you need to talk to someone, our sponsor, BetterHelp, are here to support you. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professional and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, with more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. BetterHelp has a special offer today where you'll get 10% off your first month. Just go to betterhelp.com/improvementpill. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Now let's move on to the next lesson. You must take accountability for your mistakes. Downey spent years doing the worst things he could do to his body and his career, and it would be so easy to blame all of that on a bad upbringing or the pressures of fame. After his Chaplin success, he was due a big fall from grace, and that came in 1996 when he was arrested while speeding down Sunset Boulevard with illegal substances and a weapon. Appearing in court, he tried to argue that he was sick and that addiction was making him do these things, but the judge wouldn't accept his excuses. "I don't believe your client is committed to not using drugs," the judge argued with Downey's lawyers. "You may call that addiction, but there's some level of choice." By 1999, even the same team that got O.J. Simpson off couldn't keep Downey out of jail after a bunch of arrests, and he was then sentenced to 3 years, ending up serving only 1. This man was at rock bottom, putting himself to shame. He was even so drunk coming home one night that he accidentally went into his neighbor's house and fell asleep. They had to call the police to remove him. During this period, he failed to attend compulsory drug tests, rehearsals for shows, auditions, and more. He was fired from multiple shows, including ones that he had otherwise been loved for, like Ally McBeal. Downey calls this his lowest period, when he was so lost in his vices that he didn't care about his future. He became literally unhireable. His reputation for drug abuse, alcoholism, and failure to show up for work got him essentially blacklisted. When no insurance companies would sign a bond for a production that he was part of, they were convinced that anything Downey touched was doomed to fail. And it was all because of him. Part of healing is knowing what you did wrong and where you started to change. And Downey made it clear that he had taken charge of his own life after all this. In an interview with NBC News in 2003, he said, "Past a certain point, you need to stand up inside yourself and change." All that time later, it's a pretty similar sentiment to what the judge said to him in the first place. If you don't recognize your mistakes, you can never learn from them and become better. By critically examining your past, you empower yourself not to repeat it. You could stop standing in your own way. Talking to Joe Rogan in 2020, Downey explained that one of the most important things he does is to ensure that he is not being his own roadblock. He keeps his mind open, keeps his intentions clear, and uses all the resources he has gained and the lessons he's learned over the years to keep moving forward in the right direction. Now let's move on to the next lesson, and that is that you must set your goals and intentions consistently. Making goals is a big part of self-improvement. Whether they're small, short-term goals to help you be more productive or lifelong aims to shape you into the person you want to be. Doing this will help you find the meaning and purpose in your life. You constantly have something to work towards so you don't just find yourself stuck standing still. Downey explained that he rediscovered his passion for acting when he realized that he just loved films. At heart, he was a fan of films, so he set every goal in place to keep acting. You can set achievable targets to help advance at your job, with your relationships, and any part of personal development. If you want to learn more about setting goals, check out our video on the SMART method. Consistency in pursuing your goals can help improve all other parts of your life, including your relationships. Talking about his relationship with his wife, Downey said that he aims to be consistent because that shows that he can be trustworthy and helps give him and his partner the freedom to explore their lives together and apart. The final lesson is to read up on leadership. If you want to better yourself and become a stronger, more resilient person, hundreds of amazing books are out there to help you do this. Downey has spoken about how one book, The Tao of Leadership, helped him shape how he deals with events and people in his life. He said that great leadership involves being conscious of things in the moment and being flexible with where you go, but very rooted in the principle of what you do. Linking back to the previous lesson on setting goals and keeping consistent, we could see that this message appears in many self-improvement concepts. If you're overwhelmed with choices regarding reading and want a few good recommendations to start your journey, check out our video where we rank all the biggest and best self-improvement titles. You might find the one that changes your life just like Robert did. And we hope you enjoyed this video too. If you have any ideas for other actors or characters whose journey you'd like us to explore, please drop us a comment below. Besides that, guys, stay tuned.